UFC 308 is going down this weekend in the Octagon, and you are not going to want to miss it. You can make Fight Night even more exciting by getting in on the action with my partners, DraftKings. Right now, all new customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up using my code Sonnen. DraftKings, the crown is yours. You can also stay in on the NFL action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers, download the app. Use my promo code SONNEN. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code SONNEN. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings, the crown is yours. There's a subject going around of Francis versus Jon Jones. And Francis has come out and said he could fight Jon Jones by the end of 2025. Now, there's a lot on this, okay? First off, I had to go back and watch Francis's fight a second time over the weekend because I was told by people that did watch it that he retired. Now, the reason I had to go back and watch is I don't remember him retiring. I don't remember him saying anything that sounded like retiring. But it was a sad, it was kind of this emotional moment. I thought, well, I might have missed something. So I went back a second time. I didn't hear it. So I'm calling these people back and I'm arguing. Saying, man, he didn't retire. So whatever people heard that they thought perhaps Francis had retired, let's just clear it up, because that's one of the things that this discussion and this call out does clear up. Francis is not retired. As a matter of fact, he won't be retiring, or at least has no plans to retire till at least the end of 2025, which is a year from now. Okay. Now, I'm not calling for his retirement then. I'm just sharing with you. Generally, a guy will fight 3 times a year. I know Francis's schedule has been a lot less, but generally speaking. And whatever it is he plans to do, I think we can interpret that to a degree to mean he plans to do it a few more times. Okay. One thing that we get from that. Now, the second thing, this all got spurred as Francis was, to a degree, showing his appreciation to Jon Jones because Jon watched his fight and paid him his respects. And it was very correct what Jon did. Jon said, hey, you looked really good, to see you come back after you took this time. I'm going to paraphrase, but you took this time off and you were dealing with other things that will distract you, and you still found a way. Climb back to the top, and on top of that, look great doing it. Now, I added a lot to what Jon said. Maybe some of those were my own words, but I think I speak for all of you. Whether you were cheering for or against Francis, if you watch that fight, you go, wow, that was good. You did that really well. And wrestlers will appreciate what Francis did more maybe than other people because there was one wrestling technique. It was a double leg, the most basic technique you've got, but he hit it perfectly. His distance was perfect. He timed it perfect. He got his hips and his head in the right position. That might sound easy to do. It's not. And moreover, Francis has never done that before. Francis had a couple of takedowns on Ciryl Gane. They were sloppy. He was big brothered him. As one kickboxer took another kickboxer down, and it looked like one kickboxer took down another kickboxer. This was good. Even if it was one thing. So I'm just sharing heard from Jon Jones, okay? Sharing from his perspective, give you my perspective. Spoke with Daniel Cormier over on Bad Guy and the Other Guy earlier today. So 3 wrestlers there. And just to share with you, I think that maybe we and the grappling heavy fighters and the wrestling community appreciated what Francis did to a little bit of a higher degree. But now you do run into a problem of, do you want to see them fight? You do run into that problem. And it's a problem for everybody because the biggest fight is the one with the biggest story. I don't know how much of a story those two guys have. In all fairness, I really don't know. I understand where that's a really big fight, okay? But you also understand where Jon Jones is talking about retiring after Stipe. He's not going to, but you understand where Jon's talking about that. You understand that some people interpreted what Francis said to be a retirement, and not largely because of what he said. I mean, I went back and listened to it. I really don't at all come to that conclusion, but you could see where it would make sense considering all he's been through, all that he's achieved, the fact that fighting is now a choice for him. Fighting is a choice for Jon Jones. It's not something that they have to do. And when you're talking about how much do you want to see him, how big is that fight? I get it's a big fight, but what I'm talking about in comparison to, because when that fight was a possibility, Jon Jones was viewed by you as too small. That was a 205-pounder moving up to heavyweight, right? That was Michael Spinks going to move up against Mike Tyson all over again. The story wasn't really there. Jon Jones, while being a wonderful talent, is anything but a wonderful promoter. And Francis, by being a wonderful talent, is any more interesting than watching paint dry. So how are they going to build that fight? There could be an answer to that. But I just want you to keep that thought, and I want to take you back to November of last year. Now, November of last year is around when Francis, he was long gone by then. He was released in January, very end of December, very early January. So Jon Jones had won the heavyweight championship in March. And again, Francis is gone. That talk is over. He's talking about boxing and things along these lines. No discussion between them, but there was talk on Jon. There was talk on Jon in the fact that he would be too scared and would never agree to what would be his most dangerous fight ever. The true champion that you had identified as Sergey Pavlich. That's exactly where we were at in November of last year. 1 year ago. So Sergey Pavlich ends up doing some business opposite Tom Aspinall, which was not a sought-after fight. It wasn't sought after to the point that it was actually resisted. It was demoted from main event to co-main event. And the talk was, how come Stipe's not in there? Now, I'm only offering that to let you know, you really didn't want to see Sergey and Tom all that much. But when Tom came out of that fight, boom, Tom was a star. Tom had momentum going into that fight. But there wasn't a scenario where Tom could headline the Garden at that time. And Tom's been nothing but main events since, and found in front of nothing but sold out arenas. Even went and had a large part in a sold out house in France, where he was just in the front row to do a face-off with what he thought was going to be Cyril Gane. Man, I'm just sharing for you, like Tom's star since sleeping Pavlich, Dominic Cruz. I've been hanging out with Dominic Cruz, sleeping, knocking out. Pavlich really grew, right? And then the legend just got re-added to, fighting about all the training methods, and he's dipping his hands, and he's fighting inside a hay bale. Like, this is a great story. That was great stuff on getting to know a guy. And then he has the match with Curtis Blades, which didn't look like it was even a very good punch. You start, man, this guy's got this rare, crazy power. This guy's got Francis Ngannou power. He's huge for the weight class. That's the guy we want to see against Jon Jones. And that's true. That's exactly where we were at until April. In April, UFC 300, we wanted to see Tom versus Pereira until June. June was International Fight Week. And we decided we wanted to see Pereira himself versus Jon Jones. And then that died down just a little bit, and Pereira got his plate full of something in Salt Lake with a guy named Roundtree. So then all the talk was on Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. So in a scenario where Francis believes he could actually fight Jon Jones by the end of 25, I don't know what he meant by that. I'm hoping to hell what he didn't mean is that he could exhaust his contract with the PFL and be back in the UFC by then. I'm hoping he didn't mean that. Because you only got so many bridges you can burn. And whether you go to burn it or not, if you wanted to burn it, it's burned. But I don't have any evidence that he actually did mean that. I think Francis has a real good relationship in Riyadh, who has a real good relationship with the boss's office of the second floor, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So I think Francis has some wishful news, and I think he has some wrong news. But I'm sharing with you, if he's saying, hey, there's a chance, and I've actually heard some people are I think he's fair to say that. And I think in that vein, if he's talking about I want to fight Jon, and I'm responding to Jon because Jon said something nice to me on Twitter in a moment when I was having a hard time, that does not sound like fight promotion to me. I get that it's a big fight. By the way, I'm not acting as though it's not a big fight. But you also understand that Jon told us he's going to do one more. And we're at the point as a community where you're begging him. You're begging him to do two. Do the match with Stipe. Win or lose, Stipe is done. That's true. Stipe could beat Jon. If he did and he retires, which he's going to, the belt still becomes vacant. Jon still fights Tom for the heavyweight championship. Jon can beat Stipe. It's still Jon versus Tom for the heavyweight championship. But Jon can't get what he needs. And Jon does deserve certain things. Right? Like he's out there, he's fighting, he's out there. Jon and Jake Paul are very similar, by the way. They really are, and that they're very legitimate, tough guys, and they're willing to go out and prove that, and they're willing to take big risks. They're working to work really hard. But they don't want the money, and they don't want a belt. They actually just want you to know that they're really tough guys, and they worked really hard. And every time Jon turns around, somebody takes that from him. And the idea of him fighting Francis, or that being the fight, if you just had a dream fight, it's just got to be a really hard position for Jon to be in, where he's looking around and go, what am I even doing this for then? I don't need the money and I don't need the championships. I got them all. I got every belt from every weight that I've ever weighed. So it actually is a little bit of a philosophical question that goes back to you guys. What do you want to see him do? Because when he gets done with Stipe, he's not going to retire. I get that. Or at least he doesn't mean that, but he could. He could mean that. And I do know Jon well enough that he needs something. And frankly, it's the same thing that Jake Paul needs. Which is he needs the community, those around him, social media, sure, it's important to them. To tell them, you don't have to do anymore. Because I know you could beat that guy and the next guy and the next. You're the best. They need that. They want that. But they're willing to go out there and risk it to do it. You're now taking that from Jon. Is Francis the fight? Because if Francis is the fight, you're going to have a real hard time getting there with Aspinall. I'm letting you know that right now. It's not about the money or the contract or the championship or the placement. Some bitch is about to do Madison Square Garden. You going to find a bigger building for him? Some bitch has made real close to $10 million. And on the right pay-per-view, it will be $10 million in one night. So there's something else that he needs. And if you continually play a hot potato with the opponent, I mean, he had to hear every single day, talking about Jon now, that he was scared of Sergey Pavlich and he'd never fight Sergey Pavlich. He never even offered Sergey Pavlich. But we put him in this position. Well, okay, fair enough. That actually lit a fire in him. That's fine. Told that he wanted to get in there with Stipe. Well, now he's about to get in there with Stipe, but now all of a sudden that's not the fight that people want. So all he's going to get for fighting Stipe, should he win, is a belt and money. And I'm telling you now, he's not interested in the belt or the money. He's after something else, which is what's going to bring him back. Well, I can guarantee you, you're going to get the fight with Tom. But when I make that guarantee, if that's the fight where you finally, there's nothing left to be said. And it's one of those interesting positions. It really is. It really is. I don't want to disrespect Problemo, by the way. Guy did some heavy work. That guy is a real stud. But you would have to juxtapose Jon going in there and getting surreal out of there. 15-1. 15-0 with guys under contract. Interim champion. I mean, it's very different. So, but that's not the way this game works. It's perception. And it's a weird question. But if that is the fight you want, I'll help you to get it. We make fights over here on this channel all the time. We got one hell of a community over here. Give me a little better direction. Where exactly are you trying to go with Jon, and where exactly are you trying to go with Francis?